there's a lot going on in the DC world right now. There's a lot. But the first thing I want to talk about is this here. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and restore the Snyderverse. So there's been reports coming out that The Rock has been pushing to restore the Snyderverse. Now, this is nothing new. This isn't anything that is being reported as anything. It shouldn't be reported as anything new because he's always been in support of the Snyder Cut. He's been wanting his Black Adam to fight Henry Cavill's Superman since he wanted to do Black Adam and he saw Henry Cavill's Superman. Like that's nothing new. That's not anything new at all. But people are pushing this narrative now, and I think they're doing it now because they want to truly get this movement going, and they want Warner Brothers to see that, hey, we see this, and I get that. But he's always wanted his Black Adam within the Snyderverse. That's where he's wanted him, and he even called out the specific Justice League members that we have in the Snyderverse. So it's no big deal. I think people are taking a little bit too far. Restore the Snyderverse is a huge trend right now. I'm on board with it. If you checked out Zack Snyder's Justice League, hopefully you're on board with it now too, because it's a fantastic movie. But for sure, this whole Restore the Snyderverse thing, this whole thing with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson isn't anything new. And a lot of people are also now pulling Jared Leto into it. Oh, he's now for the Snyder Cut or the Snyderverse. Again, it's nothing new. He's talked about how much he's enjoyed working with Zack Snyder and how great of a director he believes Zack Snyder is. So here we sit today, and people are trying to throw these names into the ring like, hey, this person wants to, this person. This has all been known. It's just, I think the idea behind it now is like trying to show that there is support from big name actors behind the movement. And I get it. We want that support. But there's things being everything's being taken notice. If you watched the Lightcast podcast last night, which I hope you did because it was an excellent episode. Taylor Murphy was on from The Culture Nerd, and even Matt stopped by, the former host of Lightcast, and they talked about some of the things that are going on with the Restore the Snyderverse stuff. And it seems like that there was a new pitch sent or pitched to Warner Media, Warner Brothers, HBO Max, what have you, that whole side of things. And the pitch was this. It was, let's make a series out of this. Between Justice Leagues, between the Batfleck series, between all this, let's make a series out of it. And as I said on my show a couple weeks ago, it all makes sense. All of that makes sense. Why does it make sense? It makes sense because of what it does financially and shows the longevity of it. Snyder Cut was a crazy success. Crazy success. How do you build on that? How do you make it last? Well, doing episodes, doing a series. Make this the next Game of Thrones. They don't have a Game of Thrones. I talk to people on the internet all the time, on Twitter. I'm like, this makes too much sense. They don't have a Game of Thrones. People are like, oh, they got this. They have another Game of Thrones coming up. They got this. They got that. But nothing that already has an established fan base that is passionate and ready for more. They don't have that right now. People were Game of Thrones out. Not to mention how lackluster the final season was. People are ready for more. People want, or different. People want, when you take a look at the Snyder Cut, people want more. They're ready for more because they loved it so much. It was a massive success. So it makes sense. You do a few seasons, 2-3 seasons, and you could spread it out in a way where like the next thing is the Batfleck series. And then the next thing after that is Justice League 2. And then maybe you do a Martian Manhunter thing or a Deathstroke thing, and then Justice League 3. You could fit it in any way, but make it last 4 or 5 years. Remember, guys, there's no reason that we can't have this. There's no reason. This is helping Warner Brothers understand the DCU and the multiverse aspect. You can have an offshoot that is all Snyder stuff while you have the main timeline that is still their theatrical things that they want to continue on. If they want to make Justice League canon in their main DCEU timeline, let them do that. They can do it. But over there, over on HBO Max, no reason not to let this happen because it's money. It's going to make them money. And with a budget like Game of Thrones, it's going to happen. So Restore the Snyderverse is going strong, but that kind of leads into something else here. Something else I want to talk to everybody about and explain a little bit so you understand what it all is. So let's see here. Let's see. There, got it. David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Now, what is David Ayer's Suicide Squad? Now, here's the crazy thing. There's a new movement going on right now called Release the Ayer Cut. Release the Ayer Cut. What is the Ayer Cut? And that's a good question. The Ayer Cut is David Ayer's cut of his Suicide Squad movie that came out in 2016. Now, Suicide Squad came out after Batman vs. Superman. It had Will Smith as Deadshot, Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn, Jai Courtney as Boomerang, Jared Leto as Joker, so on and so forth. Well, the movie did well. The movie that came out did well. I mean, it made over $700 million, won a freaking Academy Award. It did well. But much like what happened with Zack Snyder and the Snyder Cut, it was not David Ayer's vision. It just wasn't. It wasn't what he intended and what he wanted to show. And he did an amazing interview recently. Entertainment Weekly, I believe it was. I should have had it pulled up here. And honestly, with moving the time around, I kind of got off with my notes. But he had an amazing interview where he explained that Warner Brothers were just scared of his cut of Suicide Squad. And that's why it didn't get made or get released. So let's dive into it a little bit. Back in 2016, a few things happened in the entertainment industry, especially when it came to comic book movies and the comic book and superhero genre. First off, Deadpool was released. And Deadpool was a massive success. An anti-hero, smart mouth merc, rated R, but it made a lot of money because it was funny. You then had Batman vs. Superman come out, and it struggled in the box office. It was still a successful movie. Made over $800 million, and it was successful financially. Not as successful as they wanted it to be, but it was successful. You then take a look at the critical reception, which was very, very poor. And Warner Brothers kind of got cold feet. They're like, oh man, we gotta make sure we adjust and change going forward. And we see what happened with Justice League, turning into Justice League and so on and so forth. A little bit before that, though, Suicide Squad was in post-production, being edited and, cutting things, doing this, doing that. And the studio was already kind of scared for this movie. It was a scary idea to them. So they had some rewrites done, some reshoots done, and it still just wasn't lining up with what they wanted. However, one thing that got a very, very positive reception was their one trailer that was very, very colorful and poppy, and people loved it. I enjoyed it. It made me excited for it. So what ended up happening was Warner Brothers went to that company that cut that trailer together, because believe it or not, if you're not aware, in Hollywood, there are companies that specifically make trailers. So they'll send footage, a bunch of stock footage to this company, and sometimes not even finished footage. They'll send to a company, and they'll piece it together and create their trailers for the film. And that's kind of what happened. And that trailer was massively successful. People loved the trailer. People really, really enjoyed what the trailer showed. So Warner Brothers said, okay, well, we're not really keen on this whole thing over here with what Ayer put together. So rumor has it, I can't say this with certainty, because I don't have any sources in this regard, but rumor has it that they went to this company that made that trailer and were like, hey, do us a solid. Here's the movie. Cut it together. Add some poppiness to it, some cool hip songs, some colorfulness. Come back with it. Now, the rumor is that there were 3 cuts, maybe even more, of this film that were then shown to test audiences. One being the David Ayer version, one being the version from the trailer company, and one being kind of a mesh, a mix of the two. Well, ultimately, the one that won out is the one that we got in theaters, which is much more colorful and took a lot of David Ayer stuff out. So whether it's the one that was from the trailer company or the mix, again, not 100% sure, but ultimately it was not David Ayer's film. It was not the movie he was intending to make. And we know this because there was so much footage that we saw in trailers and pictures that we saw of Jared Leto's Joker that just never made it into the movie. It was never there. David Ayer has been very vocal about how it wasn't, his intended vision, but he was a soldier. He was somebody who was like, look, I'll take the licks for the people not liking it, that my name is on it. I'll do what I do and move forward. So he's been a hell of a trooper through all this. But you have to think when you see when he was seeing what was going on with Zack Snyder and the Snyder Cut and how that was getting so much attention, and it was just the possibilities of what that movie could bring. You had to think that Ayer was sitting there like, if he gets to put out his movie, can I do mine? So you had to think that. But then almost seemingly with the announcement of the Snyder Cut, fans started demanding David Ayer's Suicide Squad, his cut of the movie. So he kind of played along for a while on Twitter. He would put, post pictures of never before seen, things, different angles, different little tidbits on Twitter. And it was amazing. Fans loved it. I loved it. We all loved it. We're getting into it. But then all of a sudden he kind of went silent. Now, my friends over at The Culture Nerd, they were talking, and Taylor over there is like, look, I've heard that it's in the works. They're going to do it. I mean, part of that $70 million for the Snyder Cut was also to help boost up Suicide Squad. Then you had Debbie Snyder during, I believe it was DC Fandom or maybe Justice Con. I think it was actually Justice Con, where she discussed and talked about how her and Zach, they were working with another director on this, and that's all she really said. But the speculation was it was in connection to what they were building with Justice League. Obviously, people started going crazy. Is it Ben Affleck for the Batfleck movie series, or is it David Ayer for his cut of Suicide Squad? Now, we do know, due to concept art that we've seen, that original plans for Suicide Squad was to connect more directly to Zack Snyder's vision for Justice League. Steppenwolf was going to be in Suicide Squad. How far along they got in making that happen? Did they shoot that stuff? Did they shoot it to the point where Steppenwolf did actually show up at the end? Or did it just get thrown out in the concept stages and not actually get pushed through? Again, I don't know that. I can't answer that. I think it would be amazing, absolutely amazing, if they were able to shoot some of that stuff back then and they could just throw in the CGI version of him. So I would love to see that happen for sure. But that's essentially what David Ayer's Suicide Squad is. That's what the Ayer Cut is. So hopefully you all throw support for that, because I'm looking forward to it for sure. Let's see here. Let's get back to some of the comments here. Nerdy in many ways. Hey, what's going on, man? That's weird. I'm normally commenting on your show. You never comment on mine. This is the first time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm kind of starting to wrap up here because had to move my show earlier. Colton wasn't able to make it, so here I sit, unfortunately, by myself, as always. I'm used to it, though. I'm used to it for sure. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's what the release the Ayer Cut movement is about. Much like it was for the Justice League, we want to do the same thing for that with Restore the Snyderverse so big right now. This is a perfect opportunity to also throw your support behind David Ayer, show him how much we support him and want to see his vision. The one thing that it kind of hit me right here was last week when Ann Sarnoff made the comment about, when she was asked, like, are you working on David Ayer's Suicide Squad? And she was like, no, we're not doing it. And he retweeted and just was like, why? With a sad face. It was just, it's just so much it hits you right there because he put so much work, blood, sweat, tears into making it, and he just didn't get to make it.
What's going on, guys? Did you enjoy this video? If you did, make sure you smash that like button. And for more, hit subscribe with that little notification bell. That way, you'll be notified every time a new episode drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all later.